I'm just going to go for it because I need to make sure everything is working. I've been fighting my interface for the past hour plus, and I am not happy. I'm not even using the same audio interface. I went and grabbed my backup. It's not my backup, it's the one I use on my other computer. So hopefully everything sounds right. Let me know if it doesn't. I want to die. How are you in here, Miles? I blocked that. One sec, I have to kick out my cat. Let's say hi, nerds. Let me undo that. Cool, you're back. Sorry for no cat tax. He's already covered my shirt and hair. I don't want to deal with that more. I'm not in the best mood I've been in a while. Sorry. Audio sync is off. That actually might be a thing. I don't think it should be that bad. It should be the exact same delay that I had before. If anyone else, clap test. Let me know how the sync is. Audio sync's fine? Cool. Thank you, guys. No, I can't give you editor perms. You have to do that later. Yeah, Twitch can have audio sync real bad. I've had the Stream Deck pedal for over a year now. Just testing with random music when I was trying to get the audio working. I don't know this. I'll save that for later. Yeah, I've been fighting my stuff. Also gonna close that browser. So I'm not doing any dev right now. I'm sorry you guys had to wait so long. Believe me, I did not want you to have to. But Rode had other plans for me. The good news is if I play audio now, I just find a random video. Over the last few years, Zod has kind of taken the TypeScript world by storm. Finally, you guys can hear again. And if I put on my headphones, I can too. Finally. All I had to do was switch from my $800 interface to my $600 backup interface. Ping Discord. Yeah, good call. Cool. The term for this is hell, dynamic types. When your important things like your networking or your AV equipment that are supposed to just sit there and behave don't, it is hell. I'm gonna quickly dump my teabag out and hit the record on the camera. Let's do our offset now so I don't forget to. Offset will aim for 8. I'll do 755. That's way as long. 2, 3, 4. Set 755. And unless something I'm not aware of got screwed up, we should be good to go. I'll leave this on and just put it there. Cool. Oh shit, Ross. Are you the one who's been screwing with my audio interface this whole time? Yes, not only have we seen it, we're using it. They have a fancy website for it now? Ooh, they do. Definitely have to cover that. I want to cover the Gemini announcement. I kind of want to quickly add the new thinking model as well. DeepMind. See if they posted it here. They did. Cloud almost bankrupt us. This should have my announcement tweet about that. Thankfully, it is pinned. Cool. What other important things do we need to put in here? Honestly, it's probably not going to do the longest stream today because that was all annoying and I have a lot of other important work to do. If there's other breaking things, I can absolutely cover them. could find there. I'm going to check some things quick. I'm going to need my other browser. Sorry, just trying to get the name of these parts. Don't need that anymore. Don't need that anymore. You know what? I'm not doing anything you guys can't see. I'll let you see some T3 chat code. Currently trying to... I love my hacks folder. I need to get to AI models, backend in here. The Google generative AI definition. I want to figure out what they have it tagged as here because I want to add the thinking model quick. Might not ship it, but I want to try it. So I'll add that. I have to go add it to our metadata down here. Model. Reasoning, cool. We will make this require pro. Can you mute that, whatever that was, Mark? Thank you. Cool. And now theoretically, what is this mad about? I didn't put it in here yet. There we go. That's all the main parts. I do need to add the cost. Model costs. Technically, it costs nothing right now because it's free in preview. If I did all of that right, I have to log in. Oh. Did I just hit the bad state I've been trying to replicate for a while in dev on Arc? That might actually be really helpful if so. Okay, what request isn't coming through? Nope. Okay, I'm just going to do this in Vivaldi because I want to see it working. Yeah, Firefox's DevTools. I kept hearing people say that. I keep how do I put it? Yeah, Firefox's DevTools seem like they'd be really good. The CSS ones seem fine, but everything else is just unusable garbage. Cool. Flash thinking. Solve advent of code 2021 day 5 in Rust. If it doesn't expose the thinking data, then I don't really want to ship it. It does it when we use it on their thing. Solve advent of code 2025 day 5 in Rust. Okay, it does. Do I get that data? Network. Edit. It does not send it down on the Vercel AI SDK. Great. Noted. So I'll have to use their stupid dashboard for that part. Annoying, but workable. I think we're good to go. Sorry for the delays on all that. We'll be doing a design pass in the near future. Maybe I should cover standard schema. You mean the video I just posted, Gabriel? Tisk tisk. Is this the Dino Oracle stuff? Yeah, I was considering it, but the last video I did it bombed, and I don't have much to add. Ugh, yeah. I think I know what's causing this. I need to work on the like deletion and restoration flow a bunch. We'll fix that probably after stream. DeepSeek R170 bill on Grok. You know, we were the first ones. I don't want to lose my voice. Goddamn. You know, we were the first ones to ship that, right? The R1 distilled model on Grok. I think we're the first ones to have that as a production option. I had to like negotiate with them to get a higher rate limit on it. Happy you've been enjoying the free month. Sorry again about the issues there. We'll get it fixed. Yeah, I got a lot of things to fix in T3 chat. Honestly, it's hard to justify streaming when I should be working on all that stuff, but we got to keep the video grind going. That's the thing that powers all of this. So here's our topic list for the day. Need to get these 3 out at the very least. I will label them all accordingly. I think we still have priority videos from last stream that we haven't shipped yet because I was so behind on so much shit. Yeah, this one's out now. We got that out technically this morning. You're going to have to shift everything back again. That's fine. We haven't even done real cost of AI devs yet. Fuck. Yeah. I have a lot of work to do there. Cool. Scientific thing now said in T3 chat. God damn, Emily. Also, your comment on you're the one, or you left that really nice comment about watching my videos just to see the like sponsor, right? Because that one's going in my sponsor pitches going forward, and it's actually going to help, or it's changed how we pitch the sponsor thing a lot. So thank you so much for that comment. You have no idea how helpful it is. Didn't even understand what Fluid Compute is, and you enabled it just in case. Good call, Manu, and thanks for the resub, by the way. Really appreciate that. God damn it, Aiden. I love this. I'm going to bookmark this for later for sure. That's like a thing I just personally want to read. Gosh, there's 4% because of the sponsors. That's going in the email as well. Thank you guys. Don't know Weekend particularly well. Yeah, there's a lot better in upload thing. Vercel Blob is a replacement for R2. Upload thing is a full stack upload solution. So if you want to have the user upload the file straight to you, and the file's less than 2 megabytes, and you're okay with eating the ingress and the egress costs, and you already have your own model for verifying the file, making sure it's safe, and handling that all, sure. But R2 is not real upload thing competition. They're entirely different. They are about as much competition as like Postgres database, like Neon, the database provider, is with Clerk. Like you can use both for auth. One's an auth provider, the other's a database. Blob is a file storage solution. It's not a like full stack file upload product. Yes, we do support multi-part. Better than most. And resumability too. R2. God damn it, Maple. Aren't you a Cloudflare person? Okay. I need to get started filming. Right, Aiden? I'm so annoyed about that. Image engineering is definitely delayed for a while. Interesting. Definitely saving that. I've been talking with more of the Elixir folks recently too. Something we planned a while ago. Haven't had a chance to get to it yet. I want billing to be on the org instead of per app. Very much so. Yeah, we should probably go straight into the almost bankrupting thing. Let me make sure I have stuff I need up for it. I had a one password in, sorry. And now, da-da-da. Okay, I have all the parts I need for this, I think. Nice. Oh shit, yeah, Naman's here. Good stuff. Very good blog. We definitely blocked T3 chat in Russia. What the hell? Twitch chat bugs. This link is not good. upload thing, I don't think we have it blocked, but we probably should have that blocked over there too. Yeah, I should save this link. This is hilarious and very real. R2 is a great, like, if you want a KV where your values are bigger, R2 seems pretty solid. If you want an actual file platform, no. It's for payment processing reasons. Like, no payment options from there work here, and we've had almost all of the attempts people have done to pay for things in Russia have just been chargebacks and shit. They're distracting me too much. I love you all, but we need to get started. Let me thank all the subs, then we're going to get going. Okay, we got Rudo was taken, starting us off strong with the 27 months fucking legend out here. Dogpaw Hat, 31 months. Jesus, you guys have been here way too long. I totally agree. Krazy with the Prime, thank you so much. Real Flow, 3 months in. PQO with the 3 months, 6 month sub. Appreciate that a ton. Emily, always good to see you. 8 months in now. 6 of the tier 3. Fucking legend out here. Dak here, 23 months, right on that 2-year mark. And the tier 3 as well. Thank you so much for the extra support there. We got Grim here with the tier 1, 7 months in. John here with the Prime for 8 months. Thanks for each and every one of those. Zeet with the Prime. William with this 12 a.m. at Sweden 3-month resub. Appreciate that a ton. Grim throwing a gift over here as well. Thank you so much for that. Jiraj, that 30 months of tier 3, fucking legend. NMG, always good to see you, man. 19 months in, fucking legend. Emily gifting 5 subs that I totally missed. So sorry for missing those. Thank you again immensely for the support. It means a ton. Got Graham here with the additional gift sub. Couldn't get one up there. Happy seeing everybody hitting the stream streak. Sorry that they've been spotty. We got Code Tantra with the 3 months. HD negative 21 months. Fucking legend. Glow Capping with the Prime. 8 and 6 months in. The Vercel joke, we love it. Leah Lundquist, 20 months in. Userin, 28 months sub, 31 total. Just Jesus Christ. The link works here, it looks like. Fascinating. See why this took so long to load. Also, this does not look like something I can open on stream. I got Tennyson here with the tier 1. Thank you so much for that. I'll save this for later, but it does not seem stream safe. I'll go throw it in my research channel so I don't lose it. Cool. Actual value accessibility improvements. Yeah, for real. I got a couple of those in too, but it just didn't have enough opportunity. We got Tennyson with the resub tier 1, Spawns with the Prime, Barracuda with the tier 1. Thank you all for the support, guys. I think it's time for us to get started. Let me get Plausible open. No reason to not share our numbers. Jesus, we're getting so close to 1 million messages. Oh shit, I missed a bunch of subs on YouTube as well. Thank you, Semi and Ludwig, for the subs. Appreciate you both a ton. How's YouTube doing, by the way? Got a lot of y'all here. Cool. This should be fun. Let's talk about how I screwed up. I think these last subs that we're going to go lock in for a minute. We got Mikhail with the tier 1 and Fire Burrito with the Prime. I think I got you Barracuda. Regardless, appreciate it a ton. Let's do it. I want to start this one. What was the date that I shipped it? I'll just say a few weeks ago. A few weeks ago, I launched a new product, T3 Chat. I had high hopes, but relatively middling expectations for how well it would do because it was just a wrapper for all these AI models. I've been blown away with the feedback and support and how many people have been using it. It's truly unbelievable. But that doesn't mean I got everything right. And one of the things I got wrong almost bankrupt the whole company. Our bills were nearing $600 a day for Claude. And how we got there is a crazy, chaotic story I can't wait to tell you all about. Normally this is where there'd be a sponsor, but I'll just ask you to try out T3 chat so we can go straight in. So without further ado, here's our actual numbers. The reason that we're in Plausible, not Posthog right now, is because I had Plausible set up first because it was slightly less effort to set up, and it's still my like go-to quick drop tool for doing generic signed out analytics. It's also important to note how much T3 chat changed over its first week or so of being out. So Plausible was introduced before we even had auth set up. Generally speaking, I always go for Posthog if there are actual users with IDs. I still will start with Plausible when they're not, just to get a overview of anonymous analytics. The big thing Plausible doesn't do is identify users, so you can't know who is doing what or how often a user does a thing. You can just get these higher level, 277,000 people went to T3 chat. There's been 1.8 million page views, and I had one additional event where I track messages sent, and we've had about 860,000 messages sent using T3 chat. This is unbelievable for a product that's under a month old. The fact that we have 160 people on the site right now using it is just crazy. I was hopeful people would see what we did and understand that we made a really good, nice to use chat app and like it, but I've been blown away. So we set up our Plausible analytics before we went live, had a bunch of users. When we went live, we actually went live with a model you probably didn't expect. Our plan was to have, our plan on launch was to only support DeepSeek v3. Let me find. And the reason I wanted to do v3 was a combination of things. The big two being, first, look at that price. If you go to the DeepSeek pricing, when I actually started, we were getting the original legacy rate, the one that's crossed off here. Wait, no, the crossed off is what it's going to go to. We were on the legacy rate for DeepSeek chat, where it was 1.5 cents for a cache hit for 1 million tokens, 15 cents for actual input tokens, and 28 cents for output. For comparison, 4.0 mini is 15 cents in and 60 out. So it's significantly cheaper. And when you compare it to something like 4.0 or Claude, it's hilarious. We're talking more than 10x. 15 cents per million in with V3, $3 for Claude. That's a 20x gap. 28 cents for 1 million out versus $15. That's a 30x plus gap. That's insane. That's actually insane. And the quality of the V3 responses was really close to the quality we were seeing out of Sonnet. It's still probably my favorite general model other than Sonnet, but it has catches. The big catch is the speed, which is crazy because when it dropped, it was actually really fast. And I zoom out to find V3 in here. There it is. So when V3 first came out, it was going really fast, like 90 tokens per second plus. A token is a word, so you would get updates really, really quickly. But over time, the performance plummeted. And then when R1 dropped, it just went to 0 because it was barely functioning at all. And all the other providers that host DeepSeek, for some reason, can't get it to move fast at all. Fireworks had a moment where it was kind of fast, and now it's down to like 40 to 50. But it didn't really showcase the user experience wins we wanted to with T3 chat. So we made the last second decision to switch over to 4.0 mini for a combination of reasons. Language models, 4.0 mini. I just want to compare the 4.0 mini providers. Okay, here we are. The main reason we went with 4.0 mini, other than obviously price, was speed. If you host 4.0 mini on Azure instead of using the official OpenAI APIs, it is 2 to 3 times faster, which meant that our 4.0 mini experience was comically faster than what you would get on a platform like OpenAI's actual ChatGPT website. What? This was a huge win. It made the app feel incredible. And since we had put so much effort into every ounce of performance to make every click respond immediately, to make every send work how you expect, to just make it feel great, we wanted something that felt good and was fast. And also, to be fully transparent, since we are a YC-backed company that's a real startup, we were able to get a ton of credit with Azure, which has been super nice. It means that the Azure bill isn't something we have to worry about for a good bit of time, and we're keeping an eye on it to make sure everything balances out. And the cost on Azure is the exact same as the cost on OpenAI. So it's not like we're paying more. If anything, we're arguably paying less because OpenAI only gives $5,000 of credit to startups. Azure gives a hell of a lot more. So that's how we ended up with those models to start. We had DeepSeek V3 and 4o Mini. Originally, it was just 4o Mini, but then we added a picker super quick after. Hell, I'm pretty sure by the end of the first day, we'd also added a few more models. The most important one being, of course, Claude, which is how we ended up here. When we picked the $8 price, we were picking it based on these numbers, the DeepSeek V3 pricing and the 4o Mini pricing. And it's actually before the V3 price changed, but we were trying to prepare for it. Those numbers are still really, really good. And the fact that it's that cheap to do AI generation that is of decent quality is still kind of unbelievable. This stuff was so expensive before, and a lot of it still is as we look at the O1 price. Yeah. The problem here is, of the models in this list that we offer, one is excruciatingly more expensive than the others. And that one is Sonnet. Yes, 4o is kind of close, but the 50% increase in output tokens, it's brutal. And when you consider how much people like Sonnet, it starts to hurt. If we look at the numbers here on PostHog for our actual core analytics, which also started a few days later, so there's a few less numbers in here, so don't sum this and expect everything to add up. It's not that simple. 4o Mini has about 650,000 messages sent on T3 chat. Claude is at 140,000. That might be like, oh, cool, third to a fifth as many. Remember, 4o Mini is a free tier option. So everyone using it for free and signed out is using 4o Mini. Paid users were able to rack up a fourth of the total free tier usage just on Claude. And there were individual users who cost us over $200 because the 500 message a week limit that we had chosen was based on the pricing of other things. And we didn't know how aggressive people would spam messaging. I did not believe people were going to send hundreds of messages each. Like, somebody signed up, sent 500 messages to Claude in 2 days, and then emailed us to reset their rate limit. They cost us $180 in 2 days and then asked for more. It's insane. And I get it's our fault. I'm not trying to push the blame to the users at all. This is not something I can blame users for. This was our own admitted ignorance, thinking that we could catch this earlier if it did get more expensive. But we blew up way quicker than I ever would have expected. If we look at the messages sent chart, we had our huge spike when we dropped, obviously, a weekend slumber, decent traffic throughout the week. This was our 1 week, so we did pretty well. Slumber over the weekend. And now it's just sustaining. The craziest thing was, over this last weekend on Saturday and Sunday, messages went up. So we're no longer having the weekend slumber. And as soon as I saw that, I hit up Mark, my CTO, and just said, hey, we need to be prepared for a crazy week because our traffic didn't go down over the weekend, which is about to spike again, which it did. And now we're getting nearly 10K messages a day. Insane. And we certainly paid for it. This is the bill just for Claude, just for February. $500 a day. Insane. Not at all sustainable. And if this was half our users were working this up, that's fine. Over 90% of our cost here was from less than 2% of our users. The number of users who used more than they actually paid for was approximately 100 people. That's not that much. But those people cost us an ungodly amount of money. So we had to make a change. It's not a change I wanted to make. I have the link here. To quickly summarize the change we made, you now get 1,500 messages per month. Claude's now limited to 100 messages a month instead of the part of the core limit. In the future, we might have other models that are these premium models. Might have to move 4.0 eventually to this tier, but for now, whatever. The other models are so cheap. Hell, even 03. If we look at the 03 price, there's a reason that we made it free temporarily when we released it. I suppose I'm in the wrong browser. There's a reason that we released 03 for free when it came out. It's so much cheaper than Claude. It's a third the price of Claude, which is insane. That's cheap enough that we could temporarily offer for free and not feel too bad. And now with crazy stuff going on, like the new Google models that are cheaper than 4.0 mini, it's really hard to justify Claude. And I'm not saying it's not a great model. I'm not saying it isn't the best at coding general tasks and UI stuff. And I'm not even saying it's not what I use in Cursor. Like when I Command I here, Claude is still what is selected. And I have played with other models, but I keep going back to Claude because it's the right balance of speed and understanding and context size. It's a good model. It is not good enough for it to be this expensive, and it is not good enough in a chat context to continue being the thing everyone reaches for. Especially now that we have reasoning models as cheap as we do with R1 and O3 Mini. I'm just really falling out of love with Claude. And I know for most people, they'll never feel this. Most people will never have these problems. But now that I'm on the other side and I'm seeing these bills, it's rough. And we did everything we could to make it better for the people who were already subbed. First off, we allow you to buy more Claude credits, $8 for 100 messages. This might sound like we're making a crazy profit on it. We're not. We're absolutely not. It costs us on average about 6 cents per message. So if you actually use all 100 of these credits, which you probably eventually will, they stay on your account indefinitely. They don't reset at the end of the month. This is credits you buy, and your monthly credits get consumed first. So this costs us probably $6. It's possible it costs us even more depending on how long those responses are. So it's not like we put this so we can charge you a ton of money and make a killing off of your Claude usage. This is so if you really want to keep using Claude, you can, possibly even at cost to us, but no longer at the point where it will bankrupt us. And just to show how much we care, we're giving everyone who was subbed when we made this change 250 Claude credits for free. So if you were already subbed before the date that this went in, you get 250 extra Claude credits, which is estimated to cost us from the math that we did. Like that amount of credit is like 50 grand that we just gave out effectively, which is insane. We did not want to make these changes. I did not want to have to do any of this. But it sets us up to do so much more and to not change the price. The vast majority of our users are doing less than $8 of inference on T3 chat. Raising the price to $20 would change it from 2% of our users cost us money to 1.5% of our users cost us money. That makes no sense for the other 98%. We made these changes for a reason, and the reason is so that we could give you guys the best possible experience at a reasonable price. In the future, there might be a more expensive plan that we offer for access to certain models that are more expensive, but we don't want to do that yet, if ever. And we will always, to the best of our ability, maintain an $8 plan because we know how much y'all love it. And there's no reason we shouldn't be able to do it, especially as new models are coming out that are cheaper and cheaper. The future might look a little different in terms of the models we offer. We might move the cheap ones, like going back to my list here. Everything under $1 will probably move over to a cheaper tier, and we'll offer a ton of that. So things like 4.0 Mini, V3, R1, all that we can offer pretty much indefinitely for a cheap price. The new Gemini models are also hilariously cheap, so those will be in that too. If 4.0 and O3 Mini start to cost us more meaningful amounts of money, those might have to be moved behind a different tier as well. Or the most likely thing, we might move to a credit system where you get a certain amount of credits per month, and each of these models costs a different amount of credits. Maybe 4.0 costs 2 credits. 4.0 mini costs a fifth of a credit. V3 costs whatever, like 4.0 does probably. You get the idea. But our goal is to give you guys the best possible value for what you pay for and to not make a ton of money off of people not using it. We want to make sure our margins reflect the value that you get. And a bunch of people did the math. Turns out that $8 for an extra 100 messages combined with the 100 you get for your sub is probably pretty close to the amount of messages you can get using the official Claude sub for $20. So for $16, you get a model, so for $16, you get 600. So for $16, you would get 200 messages with Claude, as well as 1,500 with everything else, and you'd be saving $4 over a Claude sub. I think we're in a good spot here. It's not great. Our margins aren't incredible for those power users that are actually getting close to those limits, but we're in a good enough spot now that I'm no longer stressed out. I was up until 6 a.m. working on this rate limit change a few nights ago because I wanted to make sure we got it right. And I even got ratioed by Brian Johnson because he was making fun of me for staying up so late coding. But I think we did it. I do have to say some thanks. First and foremost to Mark, my CTO, for doing this grind with us this whole time. It's been nuts that I could not have done this without him. But more importantly, I need to thank all of you guys. I can't put into words how stressful this change was. It felt like I was taking something back in a way, and I hate doing that. I want to just give you guys the stuff because you are so supportive of me and my team and everything that we do. I was blown away when I saw the response. I was just sitting there refreshing, scrolling through Twitter, waiting for the negative comments to come in, and they didn't. And I still can't believe that. The fact that you guys see what we're doing, understand that we're not hiding some crazy thing behind the scenes or trying to steal a bunch of money from y'all. I just wanted a better chat app. And it seems like that's resonating with you guys. And the fact that we put up this post and straight up just showed the numbers outright seems like our transparency combined with the fact that we showed the number, it seems like our transparency combined with just how awesome you guys are means that it's okay. And I never would have guessed as I was hitting post that the response to this would be support. I was expecting the response to be outright frustration, people saying that we rug pulled, calling us scammers and liars and all of that. But knowing that the transparency works and knowing that you guys trust us, it means that we're going to be this transparent going forward. I'm not going to hide it means I'm not going to hide our dashboard in Claude. It means I'm not going to hide our pricing and our costs. It means I'm not going to hide how many messages we're getting, how many subs we're getting. I have no reason to hide those things. Our competition might benefit, but our competition kind of sucks. That's why T3 Chat's doing well. That's why Mark and I could spend 2 weeks hacking on this project and make something that is growing faster than almost any other AI product today. I'm so thankful that we're in a position that we can do stuff like this, that we can be fully transparent, and that y'all get it. So thank you. Sincerely. This has been awesome. I never could have predicted any of the steps throughout. I never would have guessed that we would have so many paid subs. I never would have guessed we would have had such crazy usage. I never would have guessed Claude would have cost us so much. I never would have guessed I could make these changes and y'all would get it. So stop asking me for a roadmap because this shows how little we can actually predict how things work in the space. The best thing we can be as the creators of T3 Chat isn't super thoughtful, or the best thing we can do as the creators of T3 Chat isn't make this crazy perfect roadmap that tells you exactly what's going to change when. The best thing we can do is be responsive when things change, when your needs change, when new models come out, and all of these other things happen. It's our goal to be the best place to use every model, which is why we just shipped Gemini 2.0 Flashlight, as well as the new Gemini 2.0 standard Flash models, within hours of them coming out. We were the first company to have Grok distilled, or we were the first company to have the new DeepSeek R1 on Grok deployed out. One of the first to have the official R1 deployed out too. I think we were the actual first to have O3 Mini that wasn't the official O3 site. We're working hard. We want to be the best place to play with these new AI models. We want to be the best place to have your knowledge base and have these AI chats. We want to be the best experience you've had with AI, and we're going to keep fighting to do that. And if we ever miss the mark, call me out. Just because I am pumped with the positivity for this doesn't mean you can't talk shit when we do screw up. I need y'all to hold us accountable and make sure that we pull this off right. I don't want to be yet another VC rug pull startup AI bullshit thing. I want to provide you guys the best possible experience with a lot of transparency throughout. So thank you all again. Thank you all again. I seriously appreciate you guys immensely. This has been a crazy journey so far, and I'm so excited to see where it takes us next. Until next time, keep chatting. Cool. Thank you for the support, man. The audio sync's off. Are others seeing audio sync issues? Yeah. Clap test. Okay, it's just Twitch being Twitch. I'm sorry. I appreciate you guys for confirming. Yeah, Mark's going to experience a delay because he's in the office directly across from my studio. This is a great question and a problem that we're going to have to solve in the near future. We haven't had a product that did this well overseas to have to worry that much, but we'll figure that all out in Stripe in the near future. Okay. Mark just said that he set it up so you can put your tax ID in when you check out so that you will be situated properly for it. We might have to go pay some crazy bills. That's our problem. Don't worry about us. Something else I should have mentioned that it doesn't make sense and it's going to be really annoying to edit in if I do it. Someone asked if they can do an open source clone of T3 chat. Not only did I say yes, I gave them hints on like what tech to use. Like if you want to do a T3 chat clone and you're not using Dexy, you're screwed. This library is utter chaos, but it is beautiful. It is the two tech decisions I regret the least by far with this whole project have been Dexy and Upstash. Everything else has been pretty rough at points. This is hard to track because until yesterday, I wasn't even tracking paid versus free users like separately. So I'd only really be able to track like how many people used Claude in a day and how much did we spend that day on Claude. It's not easy to track. Now that I have pro tier, it's separated and people are going to slowly update. Yeah, we're keeping an eye on these other models. Don't worry. We'll absolutely have to make changes to which models are priced in which ways in the future. I'm expecting it. But none of the others are threatening to bankrupt us. And hopefully we'll be able to move O3 Mini over to Azure where we have a ton of credit. Oh shit, thank you for the super chat over here, Devansh. Really appreciate it. PDF support's annoying for a bunch of reasons, but we are absolutely on it. We will probably have it for Claude in the very near future, and we will likely have it for the Gemini Google models really soon too. Yeah, the only things free users get are 4.0 Mini, as well as right now they get the new Gemini models. Might even change that in the future. Hell, I might even make the Gemini models the new default if it goes well enough. And yes, Obsession's been insanely cheap for us. I wish I could see the thing people are replying to here. I don't know why it's broken. I don't know if it's a Firefox thing or if my like extension was how it worked before. Yeah, I'm not going to say Dexy isn't a mess. There's a lot of legacy shit in there, but the result's pretty good. The issue is when I click this, I can't go to the thing he's replying to. It's not pulling up the thread view. You have to hit reply to see? That's awful. Sometimes on weekends I'm bored and can't find any ideas for quick doable projects. So you want ideas for quick projects? You got to just reflect on the things you don't like. So look at the things that are frustrating to you and use those, because a random other person's side project will never motivate you enough to like get shit done. I'm going to respond to you in a sec, Sachin, because that's a really good message. I have a lot of thoughts. But yeah, I did a tweet that's... let me find it. It was just a few days ago. I basically gave you guys all a bunch of free startup ideas. Here it is. What's the worst app you use regularly? What makes it bad? This is full of replies of things you could theoretically make a replacement for that is better. Like literally 608 of them. So if you really are struggling with an idea, there you go. Close these so I don't accidentally leak things I don't want to. New to web. Thank you for the content. Appreciate that a ton, Pirata. Hope that my content's been helping you out. I want to jump on this one, Sachin, because your grant funding was not because of my videos. Your grant funding is because of your hard work in Drive and all of the things you did to make that happen. I didn't get a grant. I didn't know you were going for a grant. I had nothing to do with that. You might have used my videos as a resource that helped you in some way, but if my videos didn't exist, you would have found others. Your grant has nothing to do with me, the same way that like your grant has something to do with the keyboard you typed it on. That keyboard is just a tool that you picked and used for your ambitions. And I don't deserve any credit for it. I appreciate it a ton. I'm pumped to know that my videos helped in any way, but they helped you. They didn't do it for you. Make sure I didn't miss any subs while I did all that. Oh, look at that, I missed a bunch. Thank you, Gashi Tennyson. Either way, appreciate you a ton for the tier 1. Spoonzig with the Prime. Barracuda with the tier 1. Thank you all. Fire Burrito with the Prime. Michael here with the tier 1. A continuation of a gift. Thank you so much for that. Neutrino here with the 10 months. AWS was not what cost us that money, no. Mexican Patrick here with the 3 months of support. Gamer Girl & Co. 11 months in, legend. Lockham with the Prime. Puskevit with the Prime as well. Nick Serve here 15 months in. Thank you as well for the cheer, by the way. Real flow, appreciate that. And one here from RP0x1. Crazy username. Is that not even an X? That's like a weird other character? That's cool. Thanks for keeping me up to date with the latest tech, also sharing your own path experience. I'm happy. I feel like the more I'm coding, the better my videos get. Oh, well, you get 3 thank yous. Barracuda, appreciate it. For content creators like me for a while. If I didn't do it, someone else eventually would have. Like, I like to think the things I'm doing and the content I'm making is... I don't remember how to put it. Like, my content is unique. I don't love that it's unique. I want more senior plus dev stuff to watch. I feel like even the other senior plus people that were starting to do well on YouTube, they all started chasing the dragon of the view count. And it's so addicting. Once you realize like, oh, if I make a video that's a little more noob friendly, then I get more views. And the numbers pull you towards more and more beginnery content. And I've just refused to acknowledge it. Ryan's the only one that I actively watch, and I have every single one of his streams on my watch later list. And on the rare moments I have time, I slowly grind through them. If you're looking for something similar to the stuff I do, but even deeper, even more senior, and even harder core on the website, you got to watch Ryan's streams, man. Are you Ryan Solid on YouTube? Yeah. His live streams are insane. And every once in a while, he even put one up as a video like this. This one's nuts too. I'm so excited to watch this later. His JS performance tier list. I've been wanting to watch this since the stream happened. I just haven't had any time to. His streams are great. They're full of really, really useful information that I get a ton from. So if you are looking for something else, if it's like there's a spectrum where on one end there is, I don't know, like a classic like educational channel teaching you the basics, like free code camps on one side, Ryan's on the other side, and I'm like in the middle between them. His blog is criminally underrated. Yo, Manu with the super chat. Thank you so much for that. Best way to contribute to T3 chat? Don't worry about contributing to T3 chat. It's our problem. It doesn't make sense for us to open source it for a ton of reasons. The biggest one being I do not want our competition, like Claude and OpenAI, well, Anthropic and OpenAI, getting everything for free. The best thing you can do is when you do run into an issue, collect a bunch of data on it. So like check the network tab if it's network related, check console, unfold the things that come out of the console so we can get the little bit of extra info. Throw that in like a Notion or a Google Doc somewhere, and then send that to us over support. Having like the pieces. So when I look to go solve the problem, I don't just have like one screenshot that's missing half the info, but I have all the parts I might need to replicate this, like the edge case, and then fix it that way. That is so helpful. There's actually one other person who was super helpful. I had a bug with the scroll containers, and someone who is really good at CSS was frustrated with it, described it to me, went into the console and showed what they thought it was, like in the like browser elements, and then changed it and told me which classes and which elements to change things on. And I hadn't seen the DM. I spent like 20 minutes working on it. I got pretty close. I checked the DM to tell them, saw their solution, switched to their solution. It worked perfectly. And yeah, scroll containers suck, and I'm pretty good at them. So that was hilarious. But yeah, good actionable feedback with details is incredibly helpful. And especially now that we're getting so much support inbound, the more useful stuff there is in there is super helpful. I love that the YouTube chat scroll broke. Speaking of scroll containers. Oh, this is the spectrum of like noob to senior. I feel like Prime started like right around where I was with the second channel, and he slowly drifted a little newbier and a little more accessible. And I'm really happy for him because like that needs to exist. Like a senior person that brings useful context to more traditional, I don't say beginnery topics, but currently interesting topics. Like he just did a video about how GPUs are obnoxious to buy. That's actually cool, and I'm happy that exists. It's not for me. And I found that I'm watching fewer and fewer Prime videos. But I also I looked through the ones I did recently, and like, holy shit, our recent videos have been nuts. Like if we just look through, so like the TypeScript one, people are iffy on newsy stuff, whatever. State of Auth, what a grind and what a really genuinely useful resource. Proud as hell of that one. Deprecate Deprecating Create React app. This is one that was 3 years in the making. I have covered this topic so much, and I really nailed down the history and what's going on in that world. O3 Mini is I would say one of the better videos about it and how it actually generally affects things. Biggest tutorial ever, obviously, absolute grind. Really proud of that one. The browser one might not have been the highest effort video, but I put a lot of time in outside of it to try and test different browsers and solutions, and I went out of my way to support the hell out of the Zen guys, and I think it worked. So this is like bringing up an open source team and making shit happen. I fixed Stripe was another grind, actual real life practical experience and showing you how to apply it to your own work. Antivirus software, this is, up until now, I would say every one of these videos is both exceptional and something only I could reasonably do. This one, it's good. I liked it. I thought it was a fun story to tell, but it doesn't seem like it's resonating with people. That's fine. Why is every React site so slow? Somebody like Jack Harrington could have done this for sure too. But I love that I had so much context, real examples, and the right people to tap in for it. This one was just funny, but I actually did really enjoy it. This one was interesting because it was an article, like a news thing, but I deep dove really hard into Bun. My DeepSeek R1 video, I still think this is the best video on R1. I've watched all of them now, and mine is the best. The TikTok IDE one was newsy, but I actually tried it, thought it was fun. Biggest framework, super fun deep dive on some crazy shit no one had heard about. How I built T3 chat in 5 days, another one of those that like only I can really do. Board controller, this one was overdue. I filmed this forever ago. It's pretty damn good. It's useful context, especially for React devs. EAS deploy, big news one, but like we have very few like news update ones or articles, the point I'm trying to make. And then at the beginning of the month, like starting it off with the start of the year was, I think it was the serverless breakdown was the first vid of the year, if I recall, which was another one of those like hour plus super deep dive historical diagrammy ones. Super proud of that. Why is everyone so unhappy with JS? Similar article, or it was the survey read through, but I gave a ton of useful context and history there too. And then these three, like this streak of three, the future of HTMX, this one was a deep dive on the history of the web. All the ways HTML gets into your browser. This is the best single resource about how HTML is actually rendered, depending on which solutions you're using on the internet. I'm annoyed that there isn't another good resource like this and that I had to make it myself. And then the video that inspired it, which was my response / reading / interpretation of Ryan's article about how JS frameworks are going to change in 2025. This streak of three is 3 of the best videos I've ever made. And I'm so proud of them. Yeah. But I just read articles for videos. No, fuck that shit. I'm really proud of what we've been doing so far. And thank you all for hanging out, by the way. Good having everybody on YouTube hanging out here too. We hit 1,000 viewers a minute ago. That's nuts. The Twitch chat is much better than YouTube's. Everything else is better on Twitch, but I appreciate it regardless. Don't worry too much about supporting us like directly like that. Like we're in a really good spot. The sponsors carry us super hard now. Not sure quite what you're asking here, Elcarv. Our monthly YouTube advertising income, 5 to 6K. Some months that are really good with like big advertising and a couple big videos can get as high as 8K, which is almost enough to pay my editor. It's not enough to pay Ben because I'm paying him a full-time eng salary and he just moved out here to support full-time now. It's not enough to pay me anything. So if we don't have sponsors, we don't make any money. We are in the red. My general take with getting into content creation is you have to do it despite it being the wrong thing to do. It's similar to like any tips in becoming a professional basketball player. The first tip should always be don't fucking do it. It's not going to happen. But if it's how can I play basketball better because I really like doing it? Very different. The other important thing is you need to want it badly enough that me saying it's a stupid idea, don't do it, doesn't give you any hesitation. If me saying being a content creator is stupid, a waste of time and terrible, avoid it. And you still want to do it after, cool, absolutely do it. But you need to know it is a suicide mission. It sucks. It is a grind. You are statistically 0% chance of ever getting anything back for it. But if you want it, do it anyways. If you don't have ideas, you shouldn't do it. I will say that. If you don't have things you want to talk about or rant about, don't make videos. The reason I'm a creator is I had rants I wanted to go on that I needed a place to put. And my poor roommate was tired of dealing with me ranting about framework of the week constantly. So if it has a link, it gets auto-deleted. It get deleted automatically. Let me make sure it's still there, and I'll. Over the last few years, Zod is. Sorry. Newest. Colin, no, his comment didn't get deleted. They'll get auto-deleted if they have a link in them, but otherwise they shouldn't. Yeah, so okay, because my username has a URL in it, which causes things to get deleted. Yeah, that is annoying. There is not really much of a hidden state. Like, they're effectively gone when that happens. But yeah, back to the content creator thing, though. Appreciate that, Elcarv. There's a lot of things I don't like, but I never want to drive hate towards the people. I just want to express why I do or don't like it. I've also been trying to avoid topics about things I really don't like. And I think that's helped a lot too. The Electron video and the Firefox video might change that a bit, but we'll see how those go. That's really cool to hear, Emily. I was proud of that tutorial because I went out of my way to go down useful tangents that weren't necessarily directly about Next and the other tech I was using. I think it was helpful. Yeah. If you feel like it's hard to come up with ideas for videos, it's unlikely you're going to do well in this field. I've never struggled with ideas. If anything, I've struggled with keeping track of them all because I have too many ideas. So if you're on the other side of that where it's hard to come up with things, this might be tough for you. I'll say like for a comparison for dev stuff. If you struggle with feeling stupid and you struggle with not understanding things and it makes you feel bad about yourself, you probably shouldn't be a dev because that is the daily experience. Is trying a thing, it doesn't work, it makes no sense, you feel like you're going insane, and then suddenly it works. Yeah, that's the to stream. Like, so that's my column for, I have 142 things here that I'm ready to go and film right now. I have another 79 that I'm relatively committed to doing. I have a separate concept board here with another 400 or so ideas that I have written down. There are not enough days for me to do the things I want to do because I have way more ideas than I have time. Yeah. There are certain jobs that don't make sense if you struggle with certain things. If you struggle with ideas, don't be a creator. If you struggle with feeling stupid, don't be a developer. If you struggle with getting hurt, don't be a skateboarder. But if those aren't the case for you, these things can make a lot of sense. If you're the person who can't shut up at an event because you just have so many things you need to get out of you, creation might be a way for you to get that out. If you get bored of games because you figured out how they work, and once you figured out, you need to move on to something else that feels tough again. If your favorite part of a new video game is the first few hours where nothing makes sense, you should be a developer. If you hate that part, can never get into it, getting into new tech is going to be a lot harder for you. Yeah, content devs appreciate it. 5 years in, constantly trying to learn more from actual devs. Yeah, that's the goal of what I've been doing. There's definitely a few clips in that one. I'm a pretty big Notion fan. I'm a big Notion defender. It works really well for what we're doing. I've looked at other solutions and nothing is as flexible. Yeah, we all feel dumb doing code, but if that stops you, don't bother. If it doesn't, if feeling dumb motivates you, you're going to kill it. If you struggle to come up with ideas, you're going to struggle as a creator. If you can't sleep at night because you just want to talk about this thing and you didn't get it out of you enough, then do a content creation. This is in a level of abstraction on this thought that I don't have a stance on, because for me, like, the feeling dumb and missing knowledge, like, those are very intertwined for me. I don't know if other people separate it or not, so it's hard for me to be sure on that. I do not have a Notion template. I never sat down and set up Notion. I just kept adding and changing things until we got it where we wanted. And when we had a problem, I would sit and do a bunch of other things. That's why you're a good programmer, Emily. Anyways, let's figure out what we're ranting about next. Let me thank all my subs that I missed then first. I'm calling you nice, NCE. Thank you for the tier 1. The real be goat with the prime. Thank you so much for that. Where do I get my branding from? We have branding? It's a thing we really need to work on. I don't like our branding is the thing brand. And since I couldn't snag chat thing and I could snag the t3.chat domain, I did that. My brand it's this. I almost used my face as the icon for T3 chat. I'm thankful we didn't do that. It's not that I don't think Claude or OpenAI could do a local first chat app. I just don't think their incentives are aligned enough to do it, because this might be a shorts rant, actually. Thank you so much for the gift checks there. I want to go on a quick rant and then I'll thank you more properly. Why do you think Claude and OpenAI can't make a local first chat app? Why do you think Claude and OpenAI can't make a local first chat app? It's not that I don't think they can. I don't think you can do more than one thing well at a time. If you're really, really good at, and this goes for businesses and individuals, if you're exceptional, like best in class at design, you're much less likely to be a really good programmer. And if you're really, really good at React, you're much less likely to be good at Svelte. Generally speaking, if you want to be the best at something, that kind of has to be the only thing. It has to be your focus. Since I am not building these crazy AI models myself, and I'm not even building the infrastructure for it really, I'm just focused all in on the quality of the experience using something like T3 Chat, we have a huge advantage there because they can't have the same level of focus. You can only be focused, you can only be dedicated to, and you can only really know life, obsess over one thing at a time. And for these companies, the thing isn't their websites or their mobile apps, it's their models and the systems for deploying them. The only reason they can't compete is because they're focused on something else, and you can't focus on two things at a time. You can convince yourself you can, but you are wrong. This is actually a really good example, Zenith. Now, thank you again, Chex, so much for the gifts. Really, really appreciate that. I think all the other subs I missed, because I got this. DVL with the Prime. Thank you so much for that. Not Tomb with the 23 months, almost at that 2-year mark, legend. Pleb here with the 6 months, and Forever Sick with the 7. Thank you all so much for the support. Let's start doing more videos. I kind of want to do fluid compute. I was trying to explain this to somebody yesterday and got cut off because we had other things to talk about. I never got to finish the rant, and it's sitting in me, desperate to get out. So I'm going to do this one first. I'm sorry. I know you guys want the other one, but I need me my fluid compute. I have to change the disable hotkey thing again. I keep forgetting to do that. Whatever. Hop over here. Yeah, I might make moderation on YouTube chat Ben's problem. We'll figure that all out another time. Yeah, thank you, Jacob. Really appreciate it. I need to start paying you for the moderation help. You've been helpful on everything. Figure that out later. Anyways, I think I have the parts I need for this. Shall we hence? Oh, that's the intro post. I actually do want that. Yeah, I think I'm ready for this. I have a whole plan in my head. Cool, let's do it. Marker. Did he ask? Your decision, Ben. We do kind of track them in Notion, so just throw it in there for now. We'll probably make something else for it in the future. Fluid compute time. Let's do it. It's been a while since I was this excited about a change to how... I need some water, one sec. It's been a while since I was this excited about a change to how we use servers. It's been a while since I was this excited about servers. Yes, servers, not serverless, because Vercel's new fluid compute thing is actually really cool, and there's a lot we can all learn from it, whether or not we are using Vercel itself. I have so much to say here, from the history of how we got here, the craziness of... I have a lot to talk about here, from the history, from how we moved from Lambda over to servers again, why Vercel built this, and all of the AI stuff that led to us getting here in the first place. Believe it or not, AI is a huge, huge part of why something like fluid compute is so valuable, and at the very least, you will... Believe it or not, AI is a huge part of why this new compute primitive is necessary. And once you understand how it works and the incentives that got us here, it might make a lot of sense to you. Even if you don't end up using it, there's a lot we can all learn from this new model, and I'm so excited to dive in. But since Vercel doesn't pay us anymore, a quick word from today's sponsor. Okay. Before we dive in, before we get to fluid compute, we need to talk a little bit about the stages of compute that we had before. First, we had traditional dedicated servers. Hopefully, we all understand how these work. You have some software, sometimes an image of software like a Docker image that is being hosted on a VM or a computer dedicated to whatever you're doing. So dedicated servers are actual computer or VM on one. Always on, handles traffic in parallel, and needs to be scaled manually. This is the key part. I'd say these two are the key things to know. The dedicated server by default is always on. If it isn't, then you're going to have to wait some time for it to be provisioned, because if, I don't know, you want something like preview deploys. If I go to the T3 chat repo and find some random branch in here, you'll see that all of these have a really useful preview link where I can click visit preview, and this will bring me to a temp URL that is just this branch hosted so that we can go play with this new build that Mark just did. These things are great if you have a model of compute where you don't need a dedicated server for every version of your app. But if you're using traditional dedicated servers, that means every single branch needs to have its own box dedicated to it. It also means if you have more users than you expect, you need to spin up more boxes. And if you have less users, you need to either move to a cheaper box or spin it down. The fixed cost model of dedicated servers kind of sucks if your workloads aren't fixed too. If you have a traffic pattern, like, I don't know, during the day, you have a ton of traffic. So we start the day with a lot of users, but then at night, it goes down a whole bunch. And then once the next day comes, it starts again. And we have a server that's capable of this much traffic, or we can double the performance to a more expensive server that goes here. What are your options? Because this sucks. Either you pay for this server all the time, try and guess when the traffic's going to go up and move to this, knowing that some users are going to hit an error if you don't scale properly. Or do you just always pay for this more expensive one, even though half the time your traffic isn't close? This isn't great. And that's why we ended up in the wonderful world of serverless. Serverless is also often known as serverless functions. The reason is, instead of thinking of this as the reason they're called serverless functions is they're not a traditional box. So they should be treated as stateless. If you need state in your serverless functions, the state should go in something like a database or Redis or something. So they're stateless. They spin up on demand, and they die when not being used. And most importantly, they scale automatically, because the scale is more instances are spun up as more users are using the thing. And once a user's request is done, it dies. If you were to think of this example in terms of serverless, instead of there just being one line, think of it as a literal infinite number of these lines, depending on how many users you have. And when a user makes a request, one of those boxes will spin up, or one that's sitting around will be used, resolve their request, and then die in 2 seconds if it doesn't get hit again. Cool, awesome, fine and dandy. There are a lot of catches here, though. The one that matters the most today is that each instance can only serve one user at. The biggest key here is the difference that we care about. The difference we care the most about here is the difference we care about the most today is this one. Each instance can only serve one user at a time. So when a user is hitting your website that's hosted via serverless, they get a compute node. They get a VM dedicated to them in that instance. When the request starts, it either spins up or reserves allocation on something already spun up, generates the response, sends it to them, and then that can now serve other people's requests. This is great in the sense that you don't worry about scale, but the key is, where is the concurrency handled? Concurrency and parallelism is handled with dedicated servers in the server, and if you need more servers, you'll spin up more of them. In serverless, the concurrency is handled entirely by the server, whereas in serverless, the concurrency is handled entirely by spinning up new VMs. The concurrency layer, like the place where multiple requests happen is higher up. It is multiple, or it's at the VM layer. So multiple VMs are spun up per user instead of within your VM or within your server, multiple threads are spun up per user. So if we think of this as like a box, and this box is a VM instance, does the concurrency live inside of or outside of it? If it is a server, then or if it's a traditional dedicated server, then we have slots in here effectively for each user, or with Node, you have the queue, the request response, or in Node, you have the event loop, which actually makes it pretty good at handling a lot of throughput at a time. So with a traditional server, we can have user 1 or A, B, C, D, E. So all of these users are in the same server. Now if we have user F, they can either wait for A to be done and go in, or a new instance can be spun up that handles F as one of its threads. So with a traditional server, the concurrency and the multi-request, multiple users at once, is handled. I need to delete these for real. Sorry. B, D, E. So with traditional servers, the concurrency and parallelism is handled inside of the VM. If you need more, you spin up your own additional VMs using something like Kubernetes, Terraform, whatever you want to do to orchestrate them. Cool, awesome, you can do that. The difference between this and how it works in serverless is each serverless instance has a lot less going on in it. So you could think of it as individual tiny VMs that are just serving the individual user's requests. So you might have one of these for A, B, C, D, and E. And since all of these are their own users serving their requests at whenever they want, if a new user needs something and all of these are busy, cool, it just spins up another. You never have to worry about concurrency. However, now you're paying for each user's compute. Let's visualize this slightly differently. I'm going to tilt this. Actually, I'm going to redesign those. Let's move these so they're over time instead. We got A, then B, then C. Let's say C is shorter and it resolves earlier. If this was a traditional server, all of this is being served as part of one server. So we have the server. I'll call it dedicated server to be clear. We have this dedicated server. User A makes a request. User B has a request too that comes in. Since we haven't hit our max handling here, we're good. And if I put, let's say we make it so this can handle 5 at a time. So we have A, B, C, D, E. If F comes in after one of these resolved, we'll say it comes in here. That's fine because we don't have too many things going on. But if it comes in here, we can't fit it anymore because all of the space this server can handle at once is being taken. But there's a huge benefit here. We have to think about how much it costs. If all 5 of these users are making a request, we'll say that A takes 2 seconds, B takes 2 seconds. Let's say all of these are 0.5. The bill here wouldn't be for 2 plus 2 plus 1.5. The bill here would be for the whole time it's being used. So you would be a little under 2.5 seconds here. But now we don't have a place to stuff this other request. If we change this to not be dedicated servers, instead be lambdas, all of these can happen in parallel, and it doesn't matter because each of these is being scaled without our thought or effort at all. So F can just come in whenever it needs to. It doesn't matter anymore. The problem is, even if the requests come in this way, they're not billed this way. The requests are billed like this because you're paying for each VM's usage time for each user. This costs a lot more than that does. So why would anyone ever use serverless? Like, there's no way the benefits outweigh the negatives here, right? Because that just seems insane. You're paying for 2.5 seconds here. You're paying for like 6 seconds here. Just why would you ever do that? I'll show you why. Because we spent the last 5 years doing everything we could to reduce this down to as little time as possible. When I first deployed Ping using the T3 stack and tools like Prisma, our request times could take 2 to 3 seconds, especially if it had to spin up Prisma, connect to the database, and then start responding. It wasn't fast. So we put a ton of effort in, as the whole industry did, to do everything we could to make these requests faster. Instead of instead of making a traditional database connection, which takes time, we would hit the database over HTTP. Instead of having the data be far away from the user or far away from the database, or instead of having the data far away from the server, we co-located so it wouldn't have to take as much time doing it. Instead of fetching all of the data all the time on every request, we started caching more aggressively. We did all of these things with the goal of reducing the time it took for these requests to resolve. There were 2 reasons for that. Obviously, the cost savings that I've indicated here, but also because it's a better experience for your users. If a request takes half a second instead of 2 seconds, your site feels much, much better. So we've spent the last however long doing everything we could to make these numbers a lot less like this 2 second and a lot more like this 0.5. Hell, for something like upload thing, it's even lower. Our P95, so for 95% of our requests, they're under 300 milliseconds. So server or not, the compute's not the expense at that point. But upload thing isn't our only product. We now have T3 chat, and the average request time's a good bit longer. You might be catching on to where we're going now. The serverless model makes a lot of sense if your requests can be really short. But what if one of these requests, instead of it being B or whatever, it's AI chat stream? Do you know how long these take, guys? Some of the models we have can take over 800 seconds. That's insane. Oh shit, Grim Caleb, thanks for stopping by. Yeah. It's crazy how long these AI chat responses can take. And it doesn't matter how fast your database is anymore. It doesn't matter how close the database is to the server anymore. It doesn't matter how well optimized your render paths are, how well cached your stuff is. Streaming an AI response can take minutes. And if you have more than one user doing this, so if I just clone this for a AI chat app server, if all of these requests now take, let's even say just 10 seconds. Cool. Let's say you're building an AI chat app and your request looks something like this, which is the reality for most of these AI chat apps, us included with T3 chat. The average request time isn't measured in milliseconds anymore. It can be measured in literal minutes. And if we have a dedicated server, this is fine, because on a dedicated server, this request isn't doing anything in its time. It will get a single word back from whatever AI model provider you're using, and then quickly forward that back to the user. The crazy thing is Node is actually a really good solution for this, because you're just constantly waiting for the AI servers or providers to send the next token that you then send down to your user. So most of the time is spent waiting, and the actual compute you have to do is very, very simple. It's just forwarding the data you got from the API down one piece at a time. But with Lambda, we can't do this. With serverless, in the traditional way you would use serverless on Vercel, we couldn't do this. That's why the future is so exciting. That's why Fluid Compute is so cool. Because instead of all of these being summed up, instead of paying for 50 seconds of compute while users are sitting there waiting for responses, what if one Lambda could just respond to multiple requests? We'll get there in a second, but there's one more tangent I have to go on, which is streaming in the first place. If you go to T3 chat and you do it in a browser that isn't Firefox based, because Firefox is cursed. I'm on my test account. That'll be fine. Let's say solve Advent of Code 2021, day 5 in Python. Give it a nice, easy one. And we find this chat response. Oh, no, I need to sign in, actually. You'll see here, the words come in one word at a time. And these are all being streamed in. I'm going to pick a slower model and switch accounts quickly so I can demo this better. Give me 1 sec. Cool. Something that's slow and streams in. DeepSeek v3 will be good for this. Cool. Solve Advent of Code 2021, day 5 in Rust. Okay, this is T3 chat. It's the best AI chat I've ever made. Try it out if you haven't. I want to show you guys how streaming works by using this. So we click on the little chat here, and you'll see these come in one token at a time. It's effectively one word at a time. And that's why the UI can update as things come in, because it's all being streamed from the server. Why do you care about this? Why am I even bringing it up? Streaming is a huge part of why Vercel bothered making all of this in the first place. Vercel really wanted streaming for server components because server components would block until the compute was done. So you'd be sitting on an empty page with a little loading bar on the top, waiting for the chunks to come back from the server. So they wanted to have streaming so you could send some of the HTML and then send the rest when it was done. Awesome, cool, super hyped they did that. But there was a problem. Lambda didn't support streaming. Lambda, which is the main way people use serverless, it is the official serverless solution on AWS, kind of the inventing of the whole paradigm and way of building. They didn't support streaming. This is a big problem because if I make a request to the AWS gateway, it spins up a Lambda. The Lambda resolves my request, sends a chunk down, and then it dies. The problem is the gateway couldn't process a stream. So as soon as you sent one token, one chunk, one line to the gateway, it said, oh, cool, you're done. I can shut you down now. And the user would get one word of whatever the response was supposed to be before the server dies. Entirely unusable. So how did they solve this problem? Well, it turns out Lambda actually has two modes. Mode 1 is request response mode, which is a user makes a request to a gateway. Chat's trolling me just saying the one word. Clever. Nerds. Back to what I was saying. With the request response mode, a user makes a request to a URL. The gateway on AWS realizes, okay, this URL needs this packet, this code to run. So it sends that code to a Lambda, waits for it to generate the response. So it takes that code and sends it to the Lambda. Once it's spun up, it sends the request to the Lambda. And once the request has generated a response, it sends that back to the user. And then it dies. The problem was this mode didn't support streaming. So they had to use another mode, which is API invocation. This mode doesn't work great for request response. God damn it, chat. They're still going. Yeah. API invocation mode doesn't work great for request response because the Lambda doesn't spin up when the user makes a request. So now you have to build your own layer in front that will handle the request coming in, figure out where it needs to go, spin that up, generate a response, find some way to get the message back, and then send it to the user. And this is exactly what Vercel did. So if we have our box of Lambdas, and we have our user. And as we all know by now, users are circles. We'll say we have our user. Traditionally, we had a very, very thin layer here that was the AWS gateway. This super thin layer would take the request that you sent, either find a Lambda in here that can solve your problem or spin one up if there isn't one, send the request there, get the response back, and as soon as it gets the response back, it sends it to you, and it sends a kill request saying, you can die now. And if it isn't dead by the time the next request comes in, it'll keep using that same Lambda. But this isn't forming an actual connection. This is like an HTTP call to the Lambda, basically just forwarding the request over, getting a response from it, and then sending that to the user. There is really no logic here. This AWS gateway is effectively just a switch statement, figuring out where the code should go. Vercel's solution here was actually pretty clever, and I'm surprised I haven't seen more people trying to clone it yet. They built their own edge, and this edge is a little bit thicker. That also means, to be fair, it's a little bit slower than the gateway. If you compare the edge performance, especially between the edge and the actual boxes that are fulfilling the edge requests, it's not as fast as it is something like Netlify, where they're a little better co-located and a little simpler overall. But the Vercel edge does things a bit different. The Vercel edge takes the request and sends the spin up command, but it doesn't forward the request over. I'm going to change these arrows to be a different color. We'll make them green so you know that those arrows are the ones that are dedicated directly to what the user is doing and seeing. So we don't send a green arrow over. We'll use a yellow for arrows that are the service saying do things. So this says spin up to tell Lambda to spin up the thing. It responds saying spun up. But part of the spin up request is it gives it something to connect to. I don't personally know the details of how it does this connection, so I'm just going to pretend it's a WebSocket. I don't know if it is or not. We'll go with it. Once this spins up, it forms an actual connection. We'll just call it a WS connection. It forms this connection from the Lambda to the edge where your request came from. Once this connection is formed, it will then send your request down using that connection. And then it can send the response however the hell it feels like. It can send it immediately. It can send it as multiple chunks. It can do whatever. This is also why they were able to introduce things like wait until. Wait until can only happen, and if you're not familiar, actually, I'll show real code for this. Let me hide so I don't choose things I want to. Wait until. Cool. Here's a real example of a wait until inside of our actual production T3 chat code. This is wait until post hog promise. I do that because we want to track usage, so we know how many models are being used and how they're being used. We don't want to block your response on that. And if I hit awaited this here, like await post hog promise, now you don't get a response until that's done. That sucks. I don't want to have to wait for post hog analytics to complete before you see the results. But wait until, which is a functionality largely pioneered by Cloudflare, but now it's in a lot of other things, specifically in Vercel in this instance. Wait until says, hey, by the way, don't kill me till this is done, please, so that when the request has been responded to and the user's gotten their response, we can continue processing other data. So just because they got a response doesn't mean the Lambda's dead. If we have things we want to do, like log it, we don't have to wait however long it takes for this to run for the user to get a response. Previously, if we had just done this after, the server might have died and this response might not have gone through. Now you don't have to worry about it. Cool. So you might send all of these things down this WebSocket connection. The first one, it'll be the request gets sent, and then we'll just say this chunk 1, chunk 2, last chunk. And maybe there's a database on the other side here. Like we'll say this is my post hog. Analytics. After it's done, it still can be alive for a bit and send the event over to post hog, even though it has completed this here. And the reason it can do all of that, and the reason that we can stream requests from a Lambda to the user, the reason we can run things in the background, the reason this Lambda hasn't died yet, all of that is because they abstracted their edge layer from the Lambda. So instead of letting AWS do their thing with their gateway, where we send it a request, it handles all the Lambda stuff. They do it themselves programmatically in order to use Lambda in that other mode, form a connection to the Lambda that isn't just send it a request, get back a response, but an actual back and forth live connection with it. That now lets us send the chunks to the user, one piece at a time. This all enabled streaming, which was a huge, huge, huge win. But that's not all it technically enables. Why can the Vercel Edge only connect to one Lambda? So if the Vercel Edge now is connecting to the Lambda, does it really have to spin one up? If we're not using this model where the gateway spins up a Lambda, resolves it, and dies, maybe the Vercel Edge can hit a Lambda that's already live. What if instead the Vercel Edge checks to see if there's a Lambda already going, makes sure its CPU utilization isn't too high, sends you there, and responds to it there? Now, all of a sudden, you don't have to serve one request per Lambda at a time. That's nuts. And that's what the in-function concurrency they did earlier this year was. Everyone's favorite, the serverless servers. The way it works, I think they have a diagram in here, is, they have their function invocation service, which is their edge thing I was just showing, and it sends out requests to different function instances. The problem was there were points where on your server, it might not be doing anything in that Lambda. So if I'm waiting for the database to respond, that Lambda's not doing anything. And theoretically, another Lambda could be running, and theoretically, another user request could be processed while you're waiting for the database to respond. But instead, this server would just sit there and wait, and you have to spin up new ones for other users. The in-function concurrency allowed them to check how much traffic a server was getting, and if it wasn't getting too much, send another request that way. But it was very much a hack on top of the traditional Lambda invocations, where the Lambdas would still be your Lambda with your code for your project, and it could take multiple requests at a time. So instead of being billed for the whole wall clock time, if we go back to my diagram there, let me find that. Nope, wrong buttons all around. Cool. So to visualize this, instead of being billed for all of these sequentially, if theoretically you could fit multiple at a time on the same box, it would. It would be pretty limited to how many it could do, but you could easily get like 2 to 4 requests on one box at a time. And now, instead of paying for the 10 seconds for all 4 of these requests, which would have been 40 seconds of billing, you only have to pay for here to here, which by the looks of this here would be like 12 to 13 seconds. That's a really big win. And it's cool that one Lambda can effectively serve multiple requests at once. And a lot of companies saw a pretty sizable win from this. In the wrong blog post. The customers they tested with were seeing a 20 to 50% reduction in compute usage by turning on this new in-function concurrency stuff. Really cool and awesome. But there is still a catch. As I was saying before, with these 10-second requests, most of the time it's doing nothing. So imagine like there is a chart here. I'll just draw it like this. We have green is it is busy. Red is it's not really busy. It's effectively idling. So it might be busy right at the start for all of these, doing actual compute. like verifying your cookies, dealing with tokens, whatever else. Not much, but there are some. For pretty much the rest of this request, it is doing almost nothing. So if it's at 100% utilization for the first fifth of a second, and then it spends the rest at 1% CPU utilization or less, you're still paying for the 100% CPU for this window. Which sucks, because a 10-second request, even if it's using 1% of your CPU, you're still paying for 10 seconds. Maybe it can run in parallel and work with others as well. Cool. Awesome. But since you have a dedicated Lambda resolving just your request, you still have to pay for that box being spun up and running. What if this was way more flexible? What if instead of that Lambda just serving one customer's request or one like backend's request, one function's requests, it could serve way more people? What if it could serve more than one developer at a time? What if it could prioritize, depending on the different traffic patterns, who is having their request responded to on that server? What if you got this so efficient that you didn't have to charge for the time in red at all? Funny enough, this is actually how Cloudflare works. Cloudflare's product is really interesting because Cloudflare workers don't isolate the way either of these things do. So if we go back up here and look at the isolation solutions, a VM instance can isolate by giving you different threads for each of your things. The serverless solution, I'll label this properly. Serverless gives you a dedicated VM for every request. In-function concurrency will let you resolve multiple requests for one person on the same server. Workers isolate in a weird way. Workers isolate in a VM, kind of, but the VM is V8. You know, the JavaScript engine that most of our browsers are using. Technically, I'm not because I'm on Zen right now, but when I hop back to Vivaldi, or you use Node, or any of these other things, V8 is the JavaScript engine that powers the world. And one of the things V8 can do really well is isolations. So it has different isolates, they're called, which are the like different tabs in your browser, where each of the tabs has JavaScript that can't touch the JavaScript from the other tabs or the memory those are using. But you can have one instance of V8 serving all of these other pages safely at once. And if most of the pages are sitting there doing nothing and two are doing a lot, it can handle managing that with your CPU really well. So the way Cloudflare works is they're using V8 as the isolation layer on their servers. So when when a user goes to my service on Cloudflare, it grabs the JS file needed to respond to them. It loads it the same way your browser would, while a bunch of other different developers on Cloudflare stuff is running next to it. But the V8 layer is letting it solve your request. And if your request takes a while, but most of the time it's not doing compute, it can spin up more other customers' requests. I want to find here. Cool. And that's why they price it the way they do. Where is here? On workers, you get a limited amount of CPU time, which is the amount of time it's spending actually working. So think of it as like the code you're running, doing the work. Like if you're generating an image or you're signing some signature, the actual CPU work. Even if your request takes 5 seconds to respond, most of the time it's going to use a hell of a lot less, probably closer to 10 to 30 milliseconds. On an upload thing, for example, we're using workers to make sure you get to the right file. Our average CPU time for those is like 8 milliseconds. It's nothing. Even if the request time takes longer, it doesn't matter because Cloudflare doesn't get affected by that. If my request takes 30 seconds and it's only computing for 10 milliseconds, it can handle other customers' requests on the same box, in the same VM, in that 10 to 30 seconds that goes on. Also, the 30-second HTTP request, that's CPU time. There is no duration limit. A worker could run for days. And it doesn't matter as long as it's not using the CPU the whole time. This is a really compelling model for things like the AI streaming stuff. And I was actually about to pull the trigger and move because our bill wasn't bad on Vercel. In-function concurrency made it pretty hilariously cheap. It was literally 1/100th or less of our bill from Claude and Anthropic alone. It was like under $100 for all of the T3 chat usage to this date. Cloudflare's would have been even cheaper though, because they only bill for when the CPU is working, which it would be doing almost no work for us. Vercel finally figured out how to do this themselves. That is what fluid compute is. If you turn on the switch in Vercel, you will no longer be billed for idle time. You will now only be charged for the time the CPU is actually working, and it can handle things way more parallel, way better. No more server per request. No more VM per request. Now the compute being used, it's fluid. I actually do really like the name, as silly as it is to use liquids for computer names ever. The amount of compute being used goes up and down depending not on how many requests you have or how much those requests idle, just by how much CPU time is being used. So this has been like 3 generations of concurrency. Gen 1 was dedicated servers. It was the chaos we started with in my diagrams over here. Gen 1 was dedicated servers, where the server does the concurrency, and if you need more concurrency, you spin concurrency up with multiple additional servers. You had serverless, which was concurrency at the server invocation level. We had Cloudflare workers, which was serverless at the VM isolation layer. Kind of a gen between, but timelines doesn't work out as well. You have the in-function concurrency, which we showed here, where if your functions are idling, it can do more things on that box, but it's still billing you for the whole time. But this final frontier, fluid compute, and also the way Cloudflare workers effectively work, you're only billed now on CPU time, and the concurrency isn't based on the threads on the machine. It's not based on, and now the concurrency isn't based on the threads on your machine. It's not based on the idle time in your request. It's not based on the number of servers you have. It's based on your CPU utilization. That's phenomenal. You're actually just billed on how much CPU you use. This allowed them to make a bunch of really significant changes. Let me find the ones I am the most hyped about. No. I'm going to find this in my Vercel dashboard quick. Functions, fluid compute. Cool. As soon as this dropped, I enabled it. An interesting thing is max duration. The default max duration on Vercel is a lot lower than 300 seconds. I forgot what it was. We had to keep bumping it because certain AI providers were so slow. The users' responses weren't getting hit because the timeout was being hit instead, which sucked, especially because you had to consider we were paying for the whole duration of this request. Not great. One of the cool changes with fluid compute is now the default is 800 seconds because it barely matters anymore. They're handling all of that on their side. As they say here, traditional serverless wastes idle time. It fails to efficiently utilize available resources during periods of inactivity. This is the thing Node is really, really, really good at. Even if JS is single-threaded, it handles I/O really well. If something else is going on and you have to wait for it, you can do other stuff at the same time. That's why async await is so cool. That's why .then was magical. That's why JavaScript is so powerful on servers and why it's actually quite surprisingly fast. That's why the default max duration of 15 seconds was so unacceptable, because if a request takes 15 seconds, it's not doing a bunch of compute for that 15 seconds. It's almost certainly idling for most of it. Now, in that time, it can do other things, and I'm way less scared to bump that max duration up, which is why they do it by default now. Fluid maximizes available compute time. which optimizes your computer footprint and also resource efficiency. So if you want to save electricity being used, technically this helps there too. A lot of people saw 50% plus wins with this. I saw one person had an 85% reduction in their costs and compute usage, which is just insane when you think about it. It also helps prevent cold starts, which is dope. If we go back to our metrics for it, it's pretty insane. We've already saved 20% compute. Memory utilization's been fine. And where's the cold starts? Yeah. 99.8% of our requests are served hot now. That's huge. That means that almost every request is hitting a box that's already running. Whew. So good. So cool to see. We now get the benefits of auto scaling and pay-as-you-go pricing without the price being as exponentially higher, without things like AI streaming apps killing our bills and destroying our user experience, without all the problems that, funny enough, we had spent the last 5 years solving. AI made it so we have to deal with them. All the effort that Vercel and all these other companies put in to making requests respond faster doesn't benefit us if we're taking minutes to send a streamed AI response. So they solved the problem. And they used all the tech they had already built for handling streaming, for handling serverless requests, and for handling all the craziness between the two is now given to us, and they're forwarding the cost savings along too, which is unexpected and really cool. It's kind of crazy that Vercel just cut their compute bill, or it's kind of crazy when you think about Vercel just effectively cut their compute income by as high as 80%. That's nuts. But their goal here is to not make you worry about your CPU bill if the CPU doesn't need to be running in the first place. And they're forwarding this cost over because they don't want to make all their money reselling a ton of wattage being wasted in an AWS data center. They want to make their money off actually providing value and also off this AI wave. And this change makes them the best serverless provider for AI stuff. And it also, in my opinion, finally makes them competitive with Cloudflare for streaming. I saw a question in chat from a very well-respected person, Naman. I'm not going to be able to find it probably. Yeah. I saw other things from him. I can't find the specific message, but he had asked, why didn't I go with Cloudflare if it's so much cheaper for these things? The main reason I didn't do Cloudflare is it's not Node. Cloudflare is running their own V8 isolate layer, which means you give up a lot of random things. Things like file system access. You just don't have it at all anymore. A bunch of random packages that are annoying to set up. I spent a lot of effort to get it to even work and deploy on Cloudflare, and I got it mostly working. But as I was doing that, I started hearing about the fluid compute stuff. And I was like, okay, I can wait 3 days. And it dropped. And the performance is nuts. The benefit of Cloudflare for me is a lot lower now because I don't have to give up Node to have those scaling characteristics anymore. And that's why I'm hyped about this. That's why I actually really like fluid compute, and why, even though I'm using Cloudflare a lot more recently, and I'm using Netlify a lot more too, if I have requests that take minutes to respond that also benefit from Node, this is the best way to do it. It's kind of crazy that your bill will be cheaper deploying on Vercel than it would be doing this yourself on AWS. Because setting this all up yourself sucks. And I know that because I talked to the engineers who did it. They spent the last 4 years figuring this all out. Anything else in here I really want to cover? The only catch is at this point in time, it only works for Node and Python because they've had to build their own runtime. This isn't a traditional runtime like Dino or Bun is. It is its own layer before the function code runs. So it will still run actual Node in it, but it's their own VM isolation layer that lets this all happen. I don't think this part's open source. I understand why they would never open source it. It's pretty nuts. Yeah. It's this custom Rust layer that is the thing actually running on the servers, the Lambdas they're using, that makes all of this possible because they can much more easily hot swap things in and out when requests are being processed. And I can't believe they got it working on Python as quickly as it did, or I can't believe they got it working in Python as quickly as they did, but you can see this really is an AI bet. As I mentioned before, wait until, which necessitates some abstraction on top of Lambda. One quick acknowledgement, because I think it is worth calling out. Fluid is a new compute model, but it is built on a lot of other things that have been done in the past, specifically Google Cloud Run, which is Google's equivalent of Lambda, had this day zero. They were right. Whether or not I would ever have recommended anyone bother setting up Google Cloud products, especially Cloud Run, that's a conversation for another day. To their credit, I've been talking with more people over at Google, especially the startup program. They've been awesome to work with. And some of the AI stuff, especially AI Studio, is surprisingly good. But I would personally never deploy or recommend deploying on Google Cloud in its current state. It's not great. But they have good ideas within there. And Google Cloud Run was one of those good ideas that took 30 plus steps to link to a GitHub and deploy it. And it also has crazy weird rate limits that aren't visible to you and other issues. But Cloud Run had this idea first where it would spin up a server if there wasn't one. It would use the one that's already spun up if there was, even if it's still serving someone else's requests. It's cool to see them acknowledge that. And I know a lot of Google employees are hyped right now, dropping told you so's. And honestly, they're right. They had the right ideas. A auto-scaling server with a serverless interface that figures out how to route your functions, that's like the end-all be-all of compute. This is, as far as I can tell, the best compute model for Node.js that I can theorize, that handles peaks and valleys of traffic, that handles Node and its concurrency, that handles the fact that you're idle half the time waiting for a database to respond, and handles the crazy long requests that are crazy low compute for AI stuff. This seems like they found a really, really, really good balance. And I am so hyped to start using this for all of our production flows going forward. Let me know what you guys think. Is this just another Vercel ad, or is it actually a pretty impressive product? I think this makes a lot of sense as the final frontier of how isolation and specifically concurrency have evolved in the server world. And it makes serverless a lot less painful to use. Let me know what you guys think. Until next time. Peace, nerds. Cool. And the product is a really good ad. We're going to do this soon. We'll move the copy button. I'm sorry, it's annoying. I'm sure there are edge cases. If you're like, there are people who write their Node code assuming that it can only respond to one request at a time because they're so bought into Lambda. And if suddenly it has to respond to multiple requests at once, it might do things wrong. But if you're writing in a proper like serverless, stateless mindset, you'll be fine. I haven't had any bugs on any of the services we've deployed it on. Bet someone Lambda will support this natively. I think this is too deep in the weeds of developer experience for AWS to care. There's like a spectrum of how much does this benefit developers Oh shit, Lee's here. Good stuff. You know, more for fluid compute. Any other misconceptions you caught me talking about there, Lee, so I can address them if I record this more here? Oh, is the actually Lee, is that fluid compute demo site that you showed me before up still? Is that just booking? Yeah. I'll send it right to you. Awesome. I did well. I did good. Nice. Well, I send that marker. I think I did. Cool. Yeah. A lot of people are asking why isn't this on by default, which is a good question. There are theoretical cases you can hit where it might cause problems. Yeah, Lee, if you could DM that to me on Slack, I can get that up for the demo. Anyways, yeah. Malta's the CTO of Vercel. This has been his baby for a while. I remember talking to him about this stuff years ago. This is what he had to say about it not being on by default. There is an observable change because each function may handle multiple requests at the same time now. So again, if you wrote your code in a way where it expects just one request at a time, doesn't cut it. If it expects multiple at a time, you're fine. From the thousands of customers who have tried the beta, I'm aware of 3 cases where this was an easily fixable problem, hence the need to enable it. So 3 people had a problem where they had to change their code to make sure it was safe for this new type of concurrency. I would love to see those code snippets. I'm so curious what cursed stuff people were doing. My guess is it was something like in some server function, they had like a let user ID equals some ID. And then this global was being used in multiple places. Like that's pretty much the only case I can think of where you could hit it. But people write a lot of bad code. I'm not surprised. Cool. That was the first extra. I need to check things to get that demo to use. Let me start over. Cool. This is a little demo that they made to show off Fluid Compute. There's a little send request button here. When you hit it and Fluid Compute isn't on, you see each request gets its own box unless it's finished, and then it can go to the existing one. But if I keep hammering it, we keep getting new boxes. That sucks. I'm gonna refresh it. Now Fluid Compute's on. Do you understand the difference here? We're not spinning up a new box per request. That's huge. That's insane. It's so cool that we now have a way to spam requests on just one box and not be billed for each request, instead being billed for the compute used in total. So good. This visualization is also really, really good. Yeah, this is the right way to do compute. I'm so excited to see the whole industry start copying this. I'm loving it. Yeah. And as Lee said here, that's not even a simulation. It's hitting real functions, which is admittedly why that test site I just showed isn't live, because it costs a lot of money to run a test like that. But it properly showcases the benefits of this model. Pretty nuts that Tom was able to get that working for real. Good shit. Marker and extra for Fluid Compute. Cool. I can't drop the link. It's behind a password. Maybe you'll ask. I love underscores. I'm just getting into underscores. They were the of that LA underground crew, the one that took me the longest to start having click in my head. I'm more on the Jane remover side personally, but underscores is really good, and I've recently getting more into their work or their stuff. Yeah, I'm mostly on Zen, but when I'm doing dev work, I go to Vivaldi because I can copy the hotkeys to be as close to what I'm used to in Zen and Arc as possible. And it is Chrome based, so I have actual dev tools again. Okay, let me thank all the subs that I missed while I was doing that. Then we can film another vid. Think I got you already, Chuck. Thank you so much for the gifts there. Forever Sick here with the 7 months. Yash here, 21 months in. Legend. But the search indexing feature for a chatbot even include a tree, kind of like track branches. I need a better idea of what you specifically have in mind here. Chat branching is the thing we're working on. Search indexing. Not sure how the search and the branching come together there. My theme is I went through on somebody made a Vivaldi for Arc users tutorial on GitHub, and I just went through that. That's why my Arc looks good. Yes, soydev.link/superhuman. Do I have a command for that? I do. Cool. Yeah, if you send a lot of email, you should use Superhuman. My code should get you a discount, and it certainly gets me paid. So appreciate that a ton if you can use it. Anyways, let me thank the rest of the people here. Snow Squire with the underscores. Yes, I do love underscores. And then Bot Cooper, the fucking legend. 30 months, 6 straight to tier 3. Thank you so much for the support, man. Yeah, I don't love Vivaldi, but it's fine. I don't want to talk more about Firefox. My whole video about why I hate Firefox is coming soon. I go deep on the DevTools thing. But the think in reasoning models, yeah, I saw you mention this earlier. Only some of the models have a problem with that. It should be folded under the like reasoning section. I don't have that copy pastable because I process that separate from the actual message response. If it's a reasoning model and we get this, it goes under the reasoning section on top. If you don't see that section, it's because we didn't get that data. This is the one I was talking about, yes. Oh shit, thank you, Steb. Really appreciate the Prime. Same with Karth with the Prime sub and Pixel Perfect. Thank you all for the support. Really appreciate it, guys. Let us continue the grind. We need to cover the Gemini stuff. I'm just gonna close. Oh, it's installing an update, so I don't know if I can. That's whatever. They don't have the new Gemini model in here. Rip. The new Mistral small model is like so aggressively bad. Yeah, and Google didn't have pricing yet, so I'm sure this site's going to update soon. Cool. I think I have everything I need for this one. All right. Going to flash. Is $0.10 per 1 mil. That's insane. And then and 30 cents. Update. Cool. Your stockpile would keep going up, Emily. I'll save this and put it in the link there. So we have that. Thank you for dropping that. I don't think we'll get to this today because I kind of want to go do other shit, but URL, cool. Let's do this Gemini one. It was 2.5K in 4-ish days, remember, though. You have no idea how much of this random shit I've had to do to get all this data. I'm collecting all of it by hand because there is no one place that has it all. Let's get to it. Okay, I think I have everything we need. Let's just do it. It's not a particular... It's always been kind of surprising to me that Google was so far behind on the AI race, especially when you consider their history. Being a search platform and provider, they have so much data, but also their whole edge with the browser. Retake on that. It's always been kind of surprising to me that Google was behind in the AI race. I was always kind of surprised to see Google so far behind in the AI race. When you think about their history, all the data they have, and all the things that they are ready to do, it makes no sense that they fell as far behind as they did. The whole reason Google search won was because they wrote the right algorithms and collected the right data to make search fit better what we expected it to do. As of today, they no longer feel anywhere near as behind because Gemini 2.0 it's very legit. It's way more legit than I expected, and for reasons you probably didn't expect either. It's probably my favorite response to the DeepSeek chaos thus far, and I like it so much that I just enabled it for free in T3 chat. Yes, if I go to an incog tab, nope. How do I do an incog? I'll just chrome it. Cool. Yes, really. You go to T3 chat, 2.0 Flash is now free, and their Flash Lite, which is even faster. It's hilarious how fast it is. Sending now. That's stupid. This is real time. It's done. So there has to be a catch, right? Like, it has to be really expensive. It has to be... there has to be a catch, though, right? Like, it has to be really expensive or really dumb or something. I don't know if there's a catch here. And we're going to have a lot to dig into in order to figure out if it does. Before we can dig in, quick word from today's sponsor, because somebody has to pay these AI bills for me. Cool. We will start with my favorite site, artificialanalysis.ai. I've been spending way too much time on this site, and it is of note they have not updated it with the official Flash deployment. They're still using the experimental one. And one of the weird things Google does for their experimental models is they don't charge for them. They heavily rate limit them, but you get access to them for free. So if we go look at like the 1.5 Flash or Gemini, oh no, these are all the official ones. Never mind. Cut the thing I was planning on doing there. Yeah. Retake on that then. As far as I know, the 2.0 Flash model is probably the exact same as the experimental one, if not the exact same. The difference is they now charge for it, which means they can have way higher rate limits. But it also means we know how much it costs now, where previously, if you were to use these experimental models, you would almost certainly hit rate limits if you were doing real traffic. And more importantly, when they actually came out, you have no idea what your bill is going to end up being. Are they going to price it closer to something like 4.0 mini, where it's 15 cents per million input tokens? Or are they going to price it closer to 0.1, where it's like $15 per 100 input or 1,000 million whatever input tokens? I've been going out of my way to keep track of all these numbers because they're hard to track. And as good of a job as artificial analysis does, they don't just output them. 4.0, which is kind of like the bog standard model, $2.50 per million in, $10 per million out. Not great, but fine. 4.0 mini, comically cheaper, 15 cents per million in, under a tenth the cost. 60 cents per million out, way under a tenth the cost. 0.1, hilariously expensive. Like literally 100 times more costly than 4.0 mini. That's absurd. But it makes sense when you understand how much more compute it costs to run those models. Then we have my biggest annoyance, the thing that almost caused me to go bankrupt, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which is $3 per million in, $15 per million out. But then DeepSeek came in and shook everything up. 27 cents per mil in, $1.10 per mil out for the standard model. The old version, which is still the pricing they're charging for it, is cheaper than 4.0 mini, which is hilarious. But then there was R1, which is 55 cents per mil in, $2.20 for mil out. Cool, awesome, fine. Insanely cheap, especially when you consider the quality you get with R1. In most of the evaluations, it's as good, if not better, than the reasoning models from OpenAI. In the coding human eval, which is a test of solving hard code problems, R1 beat out O1. It's very close, but it did win. It's a really, really good model. And for that price, it's insane. If you go down to the quality versus price section here, you'll notice O1's really far off in that corner. I'm going to turn off O1 because it just breaks all the diagrams. And you'll see something interesting here. R1, O3 Mini, and V3 are all much more reasonable on the price to quality analysis here. Claude's very expensive for how low of quality it is compared to some of these new models. And 4.0 Mini is surprisingly cheap, but also surprisingly not great. You'll notice that Gemini isn't on here, and the reason is, at the time of filming, the site hasn't been updated with the new Gemini Flash model and the new pricing. So how expensive is it going to be? The quality is there. It's getting very close to these other models. It's getting really close to the reasoning models without being a reasoning model. It's outperforming Claude in a lot of places. It's close in code, but it's outperforming in almost every other spot. This has to be a really expensive model, right? Am I going to bankrupt myself by offering this for free? Let's take a look. 10 cents per mil in? 40 per mil out? Huh? Is this the light model? No, there's a light model. Let's see that one then. 7 cents per mil in. 30 cents per mil out. We have a new cheapest model. Flash Lite is insane. That's crazy. Both of these are cheaper than 4.0 Mini. Both of these are hilariously cheaper than DeepSeek. And the light one is so insanely cheap, it's almost free. It's crazy. It's actually insane. One other important thing to note is context windows. Context windows is how much data can you pass it while it can still respond. If you hand an AI model too much data, it will choke and die. Where are the contexts? There's a whole section for it here, isn't there? I thought they had a context window comparison on this page. Did they not? Cool. This is a different chart. This chart is based on the size of the context windows, and here's the actual sizes of them. I'm going to remove the Google models because they're skewing this so hilariously. Most models tend to have 128K token context. That is, it can handle approximately 128,000 words being passed to it and still generate a response. That's a lot of words. That's a lot of tokens. I've seen plenty of very large code bases that can comfortably fit under the 128K that most of these models have as their token max. Claude, both Sonnet and Haiku, are actually quite a bit higher at the 200K mark, and OpenAI clearly took that as a challenge and matched it with O1 and O3 Mini. Context size is now so big it barely feels like a problem anymore. Google hit 2 mil on Gemini 1.5, and they're maintaining 1 mil on 2.0. 1 million tokens. That's crazy. Most code bases can fit under that context window. That means you can hand Gemini your whole code base, ask it to find something, and it will. Mind you, you're priced per token on input and output. So if you hand it a code base with 1 million tokens, oh, I forgot. It only costs 10 fucking cents. Who cares? And this is what's so unbelievable. If you wanted to do that type of analysis on other models, like even cheap ones like 4.0 Mini, sure, it's only 15 cents for a mil in, but now you have to deal with turning that million tokens into something that it can parse. You have to build your own layer, something like an RAG, so that it can find how to get the data and actually grab that data and apply it in things. 1 million tokens means you don't have to care. That's insane. Apparently, the Pro version that's coming out soon, it's still in early access. Pro is going to have a 2 mil token range again, and it's going to almost certainly do really well in these benchmarks too. I am so excited to see those models drop. I can't believe I'm excited about a Google product that isn't YouTube right now. I certainly can't believe I'm this excited about a new model from Google, but numbers speak language, or you can't fake these numbers, and the numbers look really, really good for Google right now. They are overall at a quality bar similar to Anthropic's at a price comically lower. The fact that Flash meets or beats Claude, despite costing 1/30th as much for input tokens, and I don't even want to do the math. Almost 1/40th as much for the output tokens. That's crazy. A 30x plus cost savings to move to a model that in some ways is better. I think the worry about DeepSeek is kind of gone now, because Google now has the cheapest quality model, and it's not even close. That's crazy. It's crazy that, like, I'm probably going to make this the default model on T3 chat if the rate limits aren't a problem, because what the fuck? That's so crazy. Yeah, I'm blown away. And if this is all they were doing, I would be blown away, but it isn't. Let me open up my other browser. Give me one sec. Here I am in the official AI studio because I couldn't get the thinking data out from the APIs yet. I'm not sure if you can or not. I haven't looked into it too far, but I want you guys to see that they do actually have a thinking model. See this? Gemini 2.0, Flash Thinking Experimental. You'll see the costs are 0, 0. And you'll see the rate limit's pretty aggressive, 10 per minute. That's not something we can add to T3 chat yet because we don't know how much it's going to cost yet. And it's going to get hit real hard if the hundreds of thousands of people on T3 chat are using it. So we can't add it yet. But I still want to show you guys how good it is. Obviously, the chat interface here is not going to be the best one because that's not their focus. Their focus is much more so the models. We can test it. We'll do my favorite. Solve Advent of Code 2021, day 5 in Python. And there it is, thinking. And it is not thinking slowly. One of the problems I've had with the reasoning models is a lot of the hosts aren't fast, and often the official hosts are just down. Like, even if you do have good performance with DeepSeek and you're happy with the results you're getting and the price, their API has been down for 8 fucking days. Jesus Christ. It looks like it might be back, so we might finally get to add it back to T3 chat from the official provider. But the fuck? Yeah. So having a fast thinking reasoning model that can spit out actual usable results is huge. Huge, huge. The fact that it could solve that in 8 seconds, including the reasoning, that makes it better than O3 Mini in a lot of ways, and for so much cheaper. I have to just assume they're doing some loss leading here or something, because this is just hard to fathom. And again, we're not even at the end of what it does. We've just been talking about like autocomplete and text input output. It doesn't just take text. We're looking at the Lite model here. Lite can take text, images, video, and audio as well. And standard Flash can go further. They price a bit more for audio because they're doing a bit heavier stuff with it. But they also have the ability for it to do search for you. Yes, you can set up the model to do search. You don't have to roll that yourself. With almost every other model, you have to add search with tooling yourself. There's a concept in most of these AI providers now called tools, where you describe to the AI that it can do certain things. You give it an interface, you go build your own actual thing that connects to websites or whatever, and say, hey, you can go browse Google and find results by calling these 3 things. And then the AI is now smart enough to hit those things, do it, and then use the results to generate text for you. Usually you have to set that up yourself using some platforms like BrowserBase. BrowserBase is great. They're a channel sponsor. BrowserBase is great. They've sponsored a bunch of videos. They built really good tooling for remote serverless browsers that are fully headless. So it's a way to let your AI workers or whatever browse the web. Cool. So if you want to build your own search for Claude or for OpenAI stuff, you can do that by describing the tools that you build around BrowserBase for it to go do and find those things. Google just has it built in. And it makes sense when you think about it, because Google is the world's leading search company. Why would they not have search in their model? This was actually the main reason I started looking into Gemini more closely, because I didn't want to put all the time in building the tool systems in order to handle search ourselves. And a lot of people want search in T3 chat. I can just turn it on as a feature flag effectively for the Google models. That's so cool. I didn't think the day would come, but here we are. I'm shipping Gemini models. I'm paying attention to what Sundar's saying on Twitter. I'm hitting the follow button because I need to keep up with this because it's now part of my business. And the Flash Lite drop, I did not expect that at all. Putting out something new like that that's even cheaper. Whew. Good day to be a cheap $8 a month AI chat app, isn't it? Yeah. Just let me know what the thinking model is going to cost so I can start planning accordingly, because this shit's really, really cool. The world leading browser. Lol. Yeah. LMs were the perfect excuse to resurrect Ask Jeeves. Not just Jeeves. Do you guys not remember the Akinator? The original AI. He would figure out what person you were thinking of, or I guess what thing you were thinking of, by asking you 20 questions to reduce down to whatever it could possibly be. I remember being obsessed with this as a kid. Now we're in a whole new world. Interesting. Seems like a big part of how this got so cheap might be their new compute. I know Google's been working really hard on their own processors, originally both for quantum stuff, but also to make phones suck less. I could go on a long rant about Qualcomm here. I will spare all of you that. Just know that they are making life harder for a lot of companies. Makes sense that they wanted to build their own chips, same way Apple did. But they're focused on really high compute ones for their crazy tensor workflows and AI shit. And my guess is these have gotten good enough that it lets them do this stuff both way faster and way cheaper. Yeah. 3 times faster inference throughput than their previous generation. 4x improvement in training performance. 67% more efficient with energy, so they're paying a lot less money. It makes sense. This is why competing with Google right now is really hard, because Google has all the data they need to train the models. They have all the engineers and research teams to design and train those models as well. And they have the crazy compute that they're building themselves to do all of this better. So a company like Grok, who we love, by the way, Grok's been awesome to work with. We're using them for all of our super fast models, like the distilled R1 as well as the Llama model. Grok's stupid fast. It's like we had to change how scrolling works in T3 chat because Grok is so stupid fast. So I have Llama selected here. Solve Advent of Code 2021, day 8, or we'll just give it an easier one, day 5 in Rust, Python, JS or Java script, and C++. We're giving it a bunch because you guys need to see how fast Grok, like what? It's like you can't even keep up it so fast. It's stupid. And to be clear, it's Grok with a Q, not with a K. Grok with a K isn't competing with anything other than Elon's wallet. Grok with a Q is a company building really fast chips for doing inference, not for training models, but for generating responses from models. Their chip is architected in a way where it only really works well with Llama right now. So almost all the models that they offer are Llama based. You'll see as we scroll here, lots of Llama models. Meekstraw apparently works okay with it. OpenAI's Whisper works well too, which is their like audio model. But they are comically faster than other places because the chips are so optimized for the way that these models in particular work. Which is why you get crazy numbers where like the official 4.0 on the OpenAI API gets 70 tokens per second. There are multiple models here that break 3,000 TPS. That's crazy. But it has its limitations. The input sizes are a lot lower. Most of these can only take like 100, like most of these can only take like 32K context. Some of them are even less. And when you give them more context, the speeds start to chug. And the pricing is really good for the models that are this fast, but the slower ones with higher token counts and higher context windows tend to be more traditionally priced. There's a lot of reasons for that. And the biggest one is they don't have much control over the models themselves. They kind of have to take what others have produced and then give it to us for a price and hope it runs well on the chips that they designed. Google doesn't have that problem because they own all the parts. They own all the data. They own all the model development. And they own all of the CPUs and architecture to make it run. And that synchronization is why my iPhone is as good of a product as it is. Because my iPhone's hardware, chipset, software, and everything else was designed by Apple. And that type of unification lets you move faster and eke out wins that no one else can. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but it's starting to look like Google is the Apple of AI, where they have everything they need to pull this all together. And the world's worst dashboards for trying to interface with it. I cannot properly express how miserable an experience Google Cloud products, Vertex Studio, whatever shit was. The new AI Studio is actually pretty nice and nice to work through. Google has a real chance at winning here, though. And I genuinely hope we can see that happen. I want to see more competition on pricing, on DX, on quality, and on capabilities of these models. And it seems like Google right now is the only company fighting on all those fronts. They just need to sunset Vertex like ASAP. Yeah. God, if this was an open model, it would have broken the whole world. But honestly, if you don't have their crazy trillium, whatever, it probably wouldn't have run well anyways. Regardless, my mind is blown. This actually seems really, really cool. And I'm curious what you guys think. Go give it a shot on T3 Chat. It's available for free. Just click the little button in the corner. You can use Flash. And if you want to see the super fast flashlight model, it's hidden there under the experimental models. You'll get a ton of messages if you're signed in. If you want even more, only $8 a month. I think that's all I got on this one. I still can't believe Google caught up as fast as they did, and I'm excited to see how this makes other things advance. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the result of this is going to be OpenAI and Anthropic lowering their prices and AI technologies becoming more accessible to everyone. When these other companies are charging 10 to 100 times more than the numbers Google just posted, it's time for some real change. I never thought Google would be the one to make it happen, but it seems more and more like they're going to. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, peace, nerds. Whew. It's accessible, but the rate limits are more aggressive. I might throw that in. Actually, a marker more for Gemini. Got some fair concerns here from chat, which is until Google's SDKs become less of a pain to use, I can see devs picking the 5x cost option for pure convenience. I agree, except for the fact that you don't have to touch the Google stuff once you get an API key out of them. I will admit, getting an API key out of them, comically difficult. I don't think you can actually get a traditional API key out of Vertex at all, but the new AI Studio stuff isn't that bad. It really isn't. And once you have that key, you can just use something like the AI SDK from Vercel, or you can use something like, why did that all open here? Nope, not where I want to be. Switch back over. Cool. If you use something like the AI SDK from Vercel or OpenRouter, they have the .com for OpenRouter. Okay, third time's the charm here. Where.ai. Once you get your API key from Studio, if you're able, it's not that hard to set up. If you're using a wrapper like AI SDK from Vercel or the OpenRouter project, both of which are phenomenal, by the way, it's very easy to connect once you have a key. The AI SDK makes it so easy to add lots of different providers. I could show you here, but I could just show you the T3 chat code. Why not? Give me 1 second, make sure I don't leak things. Okay, cool. Here we are. Yeah. Here's our actual file with all of the models in production. We import the AI SDK providers for all the things that we are currently using. And then we define them by calling it with the model that we want to use. And as long as our environment variables are set correctly, no, I will not open that file right now. It should just work. And adding these two models is as simple as adding these here and then putting them in the config so it's showed in the UI. There is no special sauce in our code base right now for Google. There was when I tried setting up Vertex. I had to do a lot of weird shit to get Vertex working the way it's supposed to. But not with Gemini. Not with AI Studio. You just import the Google provider from AI SDK / Google. You call it. You're done. It's kind of funny that Vercel is solving Google's DX problem as well as they are. But yeah, They tried to solve the Vertex one. The problem with Vertex is you can't just give it environment variables. It specifically needs a client credentials and a private key. It ideally will get it in the format of a JSON file that will automatically be updated by Google's weird authentication bullshit. It's like IAM, but 10 times worse, and no docs that actually explain how it works. When I say I had to spend a day getting it to auth, I'm not joking. There's a reason I've been spending so much time with the Google startups guys recently, because they're as horrified as I am. It shouldn't be like this. But as long as you ignore Vertex as much as you possibly can and just go for the standard Google generative AI, which is Google AI Studio, you'll be fine. Yeah, that's all the extras I wanted for that. They added spec deck for R170. When the fuck did they do that? No. It's not listed here. Okay, I have to see this quick. Okay, we're just gonna test it locally. I have to see this. Where is my R1 Grok spec deck? That's not local. My local is broken in that browser. I'm so curious. Still is reasoning. Hilariously. What the? Jesus fucking Christ. That's insane. That's absolute nonsense. Holy fucking shit. Good for them. I need to set things up so I can do a better job like measuring TPS. God damn. I fucking speechless. Thank you for the heads up on that. Who was it that mentioned that? Brian, yeah, I like you. You have a check mark too. I wish that would work. Let's see if I can get to you from here. Go to channel. How do you have a check with 55 subs? How is that possible? I just have more questions now. Google Plus error. That's hilarious. Good shit. Good for you. Cerebrus. Yeah, Cerebrus is really fast too, but the speculative decoding shit's fucking nuts. Yeah, YouTube checks are weird because they should only be if you have 100K subs. I think all the subs I missed while filming that one. I Thank you, Karth. Regardless, appreciate you a ton. Stebulous with the Prime. Pixel Perfect. Okay, definitely got you guys. Last few. Service has not gotten back to us. We got Addy here with the rough. Thank you for stopping by as always and for all of the help. Just paying me back the money I'm paying you at this point. And we got Darzix here with the Prime, 8 months in. Actually, Addy, do you still need a laptop? If so, we should chat. We can get that figured out for you. Though Amide with the 4 months of Prime. Thank you all so much for the support. You need a laptop? Yeah, DM me. We'll figure that out. Cool. I want to wrap up. I know we only did 3 videos today, but I have so much other shit going on I need to do, and we started late. Ending a little early, but I need to use the little bit of energy I have left to go do support tickets and help out with a bunch of random code shit. So let's figure out who we're raiding. Should hopefully have more options. Nope, not what I'm trying to do. God, I hate how Twitch has changed so much. Gappy it is. That'll be fun. Have fun with Gappy. Thank you guys as always. I might go live this weekend to make up for the videos I didn't get done. Have fun, y'all. Goodbye for now. No spam word, just have fun. And goodbye to YouTube as well.